Hello, I welcome you back to the House of Graphic Literature. I'm your host, Bad, aka the Bio Boosted New Type, and today we will be discussing one of my personal favorite authors, someone we lost fairly recently, um, and that's Kazuo Umez, or Umezu, as I knew him for a very long time. And Umez was someone very important to me as while everyone else was getting into Ito Junji, um, I discovered Umez. And I read a little bit of Ito around that time, but Umez had a style that was more appealing to me specifically. Um, and that mainly started with this, which is Umez Kazuo no Norui, which is just the curse of Kazuo Umez. Um, and basically, this is just it's three short stories that Umez created, um, and they were animated rather beautifully in a OVA format. Um, and something that you'll notice right off the bat is that Umez is his work looks deceivingly simple, but whenever you really get deeper into it, he really shows off how great of a cartoonist he is. I love what he does with his panel layouts. He really likes playing with panels, um, far more than a lot of other mangaka. Um, and he can do crazy shit like this, like absolutely horrifying, just creatures beyond your imagination. And I feel like Umez really he has the sauce. Like he understands like what means um, sequential storytelling. Because every time I've read an Umez manga, it's never really been unclear. Like it's very he knows how to um, how to follow your eye across the panels. And I want to mention that this character right here, this is Umez himself. This was actually this was like his pseudo crypt keeper sort of persona that he took on around this time. Because Umez himself was a character. He thought of himself as a character. He would wear his red and white striped shirt. He had a red and white like candy cane colored house. He would show up in interviews and be extremely eccentric and silly. He had a theme park, and he wasn't only known for his horror manga. He also did some gag comedy stuff like Makoto-chan, which is where he got his infamous gouache sign, which I'll throw up a picture of that. Um, and like he was genuinely a very versatile mangaka. He didn't only do horror, but that's mainly what he's known for. And this was where this was where I first saw that, and then after that I read Reptilia, which I don't have a copy of, but that was absolutely like mind bending for me because Reptilia is a very simple story, but it has a lot of just really horrifying imagery. Same with Orochi, which I read right afterwards. Orochi was sort of Umez's "Be Careful What You Wish For" kind of story about this like young witch Orochi who goes around and like tries to help people, but she just kind of makes things worse. Um, and there's one story that'll always fuck me up in that collection called War, and that just recently actually got officially translated. That's in volume 3, if I recall. It's a crazy ass story. Um, and then whenever I started to get into manga collecting, I started to get a few of his more sought after titles. Scary Book comes to mind, um, and I just really want to mention just how gorgeous Umez's manga are, because he is known for his shoujo horror manga, specifically shoujo horror, not just horror. He did do other horror stuff later on, like he did Drifting Classroom, which was in a shonen magazine, but most of his main horror stuff, like Orochi and Baptism and um, uh, stuff like Scary Book, this was all shoujo horror. And it's so cool to me that, like, oh yeah, these were scary stories that ran in like girls magazines, and they're legitimately terrifying stories. Um, but it's just like, wow, Umez he had it, man. Like no matter what era it was, he really had it. Every time he draws this face, it's always just like, it's so perfect. But like, look at this storytelling, man. It's so perfectly sound. Like you, like I feel like, and anytime I've read an Umez comic, I've always left pretty satisfied, because it's just such solid storytelling. And you see, he plays with panels so much here, because like, look at all the panels here, and then how much it minimizes on the next page. Like, I appreciate that Umez, like, he doesn't care how many panels he uses as long as he's able to tell the story that he wants to. This story's really fucked up, by the way. This is a really crazy one. This Scary Book series, it's really unfortunate. Only three volumes of this were ever released out of like I think like 12. Yeah, Dark Horse didn't release much, and that was the unfortunate thing about a lot of Umez stuff. For a really long time, a lot of his stuff was left unfinished. But eventually, companies like Viz would start publishing him pretty frequently. Like this, Nekome Kozo, Cat Eye Boy. They actually released this previously in paperback form, but they released a hardcover not long ago. And I love this series. This is a really fun shonen horror, and the cartooning, just like, this was mid 70s if I recall, and it's just so good, man. Like, I really wish I had a an example of like some of his really early work, which I don't. The earliest thing that I have that would fit that mold is Ultraman, because so far the stuff I've been showing you is mainly from the 80s. Like Kazuo Mezuno Norui, that's 80s. Scary Books from the 80s. Something I'm about to show you in a minute is from the 80s. But that's the thing, like, Umez really, he kind of cemented his style really early on, and just kind of ran with it, and it worked. Like, it worked really well. Playing the panels again here, as you can see. I really want to show you some of the just some of the horrifying imagery from this series. Oh yeah, here you go. One of my favorite panels is coming up here. See if I can get to it fast. There it is. Yeah, I had this as my profile picture for a while, um, on my social media, because it's just look at that. It's so fucking gnarly. This man can draw. This man can draw really well. Um, yeah, and there's a little bit of color in here too. This definitely like looks more like his shoujo horror stuff. Yeah, look at that. Look at that shit. It's amazing, because oh, there you go. There's the iconic Umez face, which is uh kind of become just an inside joke in like a lot of mangaka circles. Like, you will see in like gag manga, or even just like a lot of just like shonen battle manga, I've seen like the Umez face get lampooned, because it's just that iconic. Um, God, I forgot how much I love this series. I really love Nekomeko, so it's a really fun one. Um, and it's the closest that Ume's ever got to like a shonen quote unquote battle thing, or just like supernatural shonen sort of story. Look at that. Love that. It's so cool. These are really good releases by Viz, by the way. Um, and the most recent masterpiece that Viz is currently putting out is My Name is Shingo. This was, this is known as probably one of Umez's greatest works. And it's being put out at a snail's pace, which really sucks. There's only about 3 volumes out so far. I think it's 3 out of 6. But yeah, this is a really amazing comic right here. This first volume ropes you in so easily. And this was 1980, I want to say 86, 87. And you can really tell, because despite how much the actual artistry hasn't changed much, you could see that he's definitely evolved as an artist by this point. And just, I don't know, just the stuff he's capable of is really amazing, while still doing those like deceptively simple character designs. Stuff like this is just like, wow, can't believe he could draw that. That's amazing. And as you can see, he plays he plays around with the sizing of his panels here, because normally he has really small panels, but in Shingo, everything is very big, and I feel like that's a good representation of like the story itself, because this is so different from every other Umez thing I've ever managed to read, and like I really can't recommend this story enough. It's something very special. And if you can't afford the singles because Viz wants you to pay out the ass for them, the digitals are fantastic in of themselves. But yeah, anyways, let's stop filibustering. Let's talk about Ultraman. So Ultraman, classic tokusatsu hero, changed an entire generation. And there was various Ultraman manga around this time. This was 1967, if I recall. So just a year after Ultraman premiered. And the other one was by Daiji Kazumine. And that's more of a traditional, like, tokusatsu hero fight manga. And actually, I showed off Kazumine Daiji's Golden Bat. And so, if you like what you see there, you probably enjoy Ultraman. But the thing with Umez's Ultraman is that by this point, Umez was already in the game. He was already doing a lot of shoujo horror, both in the Kashihon and magazines. And so, it was kind of a fun experiment to get someone who's mainly known for scary books and put them on the superhero title. And you'd be pretty surprised at the result. Spoilers, it's great. And so, yeah, there's this is the first story. It really just kind of gets right into it. There is no like they skip straight to Baltan Seijin, which I'm okay with because I love Baltan. But they don't really give you an origin or anything for Ultraman. They're just kind of like, yeah, he's here, fuck it. But yeah, look at Umez's Ultraman. Such a simple, perfect design. And his Baltan is great too. But like the action here, like Umez is not known for action, but his action is really solid. It's like he really could have done action comics if he wanted to. I love this. Bolton growing wings, which is not something I recall him ever doing in the show, but it's just so cool to me. There's Cap and doing this little point thing, which Umez likes to do a lot in his comics. The ending of Baptism specifically is one that comes to mind there. But yeah, Bolton Seijin has not been defeated. As you can see, he's working with a lot more action paneling here, because if you take something like Scary Book, for example, there's really not that type of paneling in here. It's a lot more basic, and you know, there's a lot more tiny boxes and big boxes, whereas here, you know, it moves more like an action comic, as it should, because that's exactly what it is. And Umez liked to do a lot of caricature with his figures. I guess just in an effort to make them more interesting. So like Ide, for example, in the original show, he's kind of like a comic relief character, so he made him look a little goofy. But then you have, of course, our main guy, the titular Ultraman. He's more of just a regular looking dude. Then you have the kid, who just looks like an Umez kid with a kind of rounder eyes, which recalls to like what he would be doing with stuff like Makoto-chan later on. But like, look at this. The thousands of Bolton Seijins attaching themselves to this car. It's so cool, man. Again, just deceptively simple looking characters and poses, but the backgrounds are so impressive. Love this. Love this action shot here. Ultraman rising. It's a really iconic. It's a really great piece of iconography. And I love the he goes straight into an action pose right here. And then he starts wrestling this thing. And that was the cool thing about Ultraman, is like Ultraman, he didn't fight like Ultraman would he'd pull out like wrestling moves whenever he was fighting kaiju. It's so cool. This is a very heroic pose. It's probably the most heroic thing that Umez ever drew. Because Umez didn't really do a lot of hero manga. This was like kind of the exception. Yeah, one of the coolest panels is about to come up right here. It's kind of funny. Recycled the same panel on both sides. Gotta save money somehow. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's so cool. I love that. Yeah, the Bolton Seijin chapter is definitely a lot longer than the episode was, because the episode just kind of follows a simple format of Bolton Seijin does some shit, Ultraman shows up, beats the shit out of him, and then he's gone forever. Whereas in this, they kind of do a little bit more with him, which is awesome, because again, I love Bolton. Again, more heroic posing from our guy. And then a little clash in the air. And then a little bit of Clash in the Darkness. This is really cool. Ultraman versus Hedorah. Not to be confused with Hedorah. But yeah, like, there you go. That's more of a simple Umez girl. There you go. Now he's playing with the more simplistic boxy panels again. Old tricks, but they work. Your Ultraman flies off. Something I find really interesting is like, this is one of the only times we get to see the beta capsule, and it's not really like, it's not there's no fanfare to it. Like, we don't really get like the Ultraman Rising sequence or anything. It's just kind of like clicks the beta capsule and boom, he's Ultraman. And I'm okay with that because, you know, we gotta get it moving. This is fucking great right here. It's storytelling action at its finest. This is like, oh, it's so great. Ultraman versus Kabuton. I always find it really cool whenever there's a panel of someone drawing something in the comic. It's really funny seeing like Umez's interpretation of Cap, which looks a lot more like Tachibana Tobe from Kamen Rider. And then the Kamen Rider manga would come out a few years later, and he would look nothing like Tachibana Tobe from the show. Look at that. Oh, that's amazing right there. So cool. And this is a proper tome, by the way. This was 3 volumes that were compiled into a nice big meaty book. So there's a lot of fat to chew on here, and it's just such a cool presentation. There you go. This is the version of this is specifically the panel that is often used on reprints of this series. I know the most recent reprint has this specifically. But yeah, man, look at that. Again, I just can't get over how fun the combat is, and I love the figure of Ultraman because he almost looks he looks otherworldly. Like, he doesn't really move like a human, which is definitely a little bit different from the live action version because of course he's played by a human suit actor, but he definitely moves more like an alien in these stories, and I find that really cool. That was a really nice Shin Hayata page break. Jirasu? Jiris? Yeah, I appreciate that, like, at one point, like, they decided that, you know, this is the Godzilla XP, in the show, I mean, not in this manga, but what I really enjoy, that's amazing right there, what I really enjoy is that, they basically just gave Umez free reign to do whatever he wanted. Like, what monsters could he play with? And so he picked Baltan, he picked this guy. Like, he just picked, like, whatever he wanted, and thought that he could depict in such a cool way. This one's really fun, because it's like, you know, you get to see Umez do some underwater stuff. You don't really see under the water in anything done by Umez, so that's a really cool treat. again, just super simple, but sound storytelling. Gosh, I really could just keep going. Look at that. I love the texture that he puts on his creatures. It's like, no matter how simple the humans look, everything else around them is going to be really detailed and different. And that's especially for his creatures. There you go, now Ultraman's fighting the creatures. Oh, and he's bigger than them now. So it's like a cat nibbling on your arm. Yeah. This is so fun. I think that with Viz Media having the license to everything Umez at the moment, I think it'd be really nice of them to give us something like this. And I feel like that probably would have happened if the Kamen Rider manga sold a bit better, but I don't think it sold terribly well either. But regardless, I think this would be a really cool release from Viz. And it'd be really nice to have in English. There's a fan translation now. It's not the greatest in the world, but, you know, it gets the job done. And I like how this sort of has, like, there's a character with an ulterior motive here, because normally in Ultraman, it's just kind of the monster that... I love this panel right here. It's not often there's another, like, evil character, at least not in the original series. So I like that they're sort of playing around with that. This is amazing right here. This, like, if you took away this thing, this really could be like Kazuo Umez's Godzilla. So cool, man. Get another sweet fight. This one ends pretty quickly, though. Yeah, he's ripping the jaws open. And again, he gives no expression to Ultraman, like in the show, so he's just like cold-blooded. That's so good. This is crazy. You'd never see this on the TV show. They went ham with that. I don't remember what magazine this was serialized in. I think it was just Shonen Magazine or Shonen Book. I can't remember for sure, but this was in a magazine first. Ultraman versus Dodongo. I love it when Ultraman. I love it whenever Umez draws like towns and cities, because it's just he has a really good understanding of that sort of thing. That is horrifying right there. Wow, that scared some small Japanese child whenever he tried to read this back in the day. Look at that. That's a fucking creature right there. Horrifying. Certainly not something that you'd see in Ultraman, but really cool nonetheless. Oh, look at that. The gun disintegrating. A gun is hard enough to draw, but now you have to draw it breaking into a million pieces. This is so good. This is like Kazuo Umez's creature feature, which he doesn't really get to do those a lot. A lot of the horror comes from very regular things in many of his books. So seeing a full-on creature is really cool. Look at that tank. It's a cool tank. He's rampaging. Oh man. Look at that panel. Look at that panel sequence. Holy shit. Ultraman is here to save the day. Oh, that's great. Give him the hand. And the finger. Dude, this is the best Ultraman comic ever conceived. Oh, look at that. That's so fucking cool, man. Rising up through the ground. He beat his ass, man. Oh shit, but it's not over yet. Look at that. That's beautiful, man. Umez, man. There was no one like him, I tell you. I love that there's no filibuster. It just goes straight into the next monster. And it's like, oh shit, we gotta deal with this now. Hayato got fucked up. So Ultraman can't be there to save the day. What are we gonna do? Never mind, he's here. Oh, that's so good. That'll be the thumbnail. That actually, you know what? The next time they reprint this should be the cover. If they have the original artboard for it. Which I don't think they do. Or they might, actually. I know Umez was kind of good about keeping his stuff. There you go. You finally did the thing. The Ultraman thing. The Specium Ray. So cool, man. Yeah. Well, Beam Clash. That's really cool. Ultraman in the Rain. There was a lot of that in the original show. There you go. Nice 2-page spread right there. I ought to do another one of these, talking about Jiro Kawada's Ultra 7 manga, because there's a lot of really great 2-page spreads in that. There's a lot more to go, but this video is running a bit long, so just gonna flip through and show you some of the highlights. And by that I mean everything is a highlight in this book, and if you've liked what you've seen so far, you really ought to pick up a copy, because this is definitely the best Ultraman comic that you could ever get your hands on. Oh yeah, this is a fun little gag. I forget her name in the show, but she like grows big. But yeah, man. If you've enjoyed everything that you've seen so far, from was that Dada? Was that Umez's take on Dada? Hold on, I gotta find that. Yeah, it is. Oh, that's so cool. That's perfect. That's perfect for his style. It's very serious Shin Hayata. Yeah, man. This stuff is great. This is really good stuff right here. And if you want to look up that fan translation and read this, you go for it. It's well worth it. But here's hoping that this does eventually get an English release. But with all that said, that's gonna do it for today's video on the one and only Kazuo Umez. I might do more videos on Umez in the future, but for now, I feel like this was a nice little tribute to his work. I hope he rests in peace, and I thank him for the hours of scares that I've gotten from his work. And if there's anything that you should know before this video closes out, you should read more old horror manga and not just the Junji Ito variety. Thank you and goodbye.